I'm going in search of witches.
Witches.
Witches. I guess you found me out, huh? Yeah. You should come around here on Halloween. You'd really see something then.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we all jump off the roof and fly.
You know, sort of like a coven.
You have placed Vesta under some strange sexual spell.
At what time will we be spellcasting?
Hey there, witches, and welcome to Moonstone Witchery, the podcast where we talk about witchcraft and spirituality in a modern context. My name is Rian Lockard, and I am the head witch here at Moonstone Witchery, and I'm super happy to be chatting with you all today. Let's get started. If you want to, you can find me on all the places by searching for Moonstone Witchery. Go ahead and do that. This is your reminder. If you hear me say this all the time and you're like, oh yeah, I should do that later, this is the time. Like, just now is the moment. Live in the present. Find me all the places. Join me and contribute by showing up in these spaces and sharing your thoughts and sharing your questions and all of the good things. Okay. I want to talk about feeling the way that we want to feel. Meaning, like, I know I have an episode on like living a witchy and magical life. I want to talk about like some tangible things that we can do and ways that we can interact with our home, our spaces, and ourselves in order to feel like we are living very embodied in that energy field, in that essence, in that vibration. And I also want to talk about how our outer worlds either help us or don't in terms of feeling that connection to spirit. What I mean by that is so often we long for, and tell me if this, well, don't really tell me, I guess you can't, but you can message me, but if this makes sense to you, because it's like, I know back in my life before times, before I got divorced and before I moved into my new house and before I like reclaimed my life as my own, I was always like wishing and wanting and hoping to have this really sort of special feeling of my life. And I was always kind of struggling because I didn't feel like I had access on a regular basis to that magical energy feeling, right? And I realized that a lot of that had to do with the way my life was structured. So I guess what I mean was like, I would feel super spiritual and connected if I went into a meditative space, or I went to the spiritual community center that I belonged to, or if I went to like hang out with like other people that I knew were kind of in alignment with me. But then there were other times in my life that I had to really compartmentalize. Like I had to be like the mom at the pickup line, or volunteering at the kids' school, or showing up to my job with a certain kind of energy. And it all felt like separate worlds. And I didn't like that. The other component of this, and something that's so overlooked, and I'm about to go on a whole thing, but this is part of the podcast topic, so hang with me. Something that's overlooked, I think, because there's still some lingering judginess around social media, in so much as like people still feel like they can get away with being like, it's not real, it's just social media. And you know, social media is real. It's a way for many of us to connect with the people in our lives. It's no real different than having a phone call with somebody, and no one in the past is ever like, why do you care so much about what's said over the phone? That's not real life. Like, see what I mean? It doesn't make sense. If people are like, why are you getting mad about what's happening on Facebook or what's happening on TikTok or what's happening on Instagram? Why do you care so much about the Snapchat drama? That's not real. I mean, that to me sounds so dumb, because No one would like hate on someone for getting mad about a phone call, but we think that it's somehow less relevant because it's like an internet space or something. It's just as relevant. It's just as pertinent. It's just as significant because these are ways in which we interact with other people. And any avenue of interaction with others is important because it allows us to connect. It allows us to exchange. It allows us to have those moments that really are what we're here for. I mean, in a certain way, in a certain perspective, we're here for connection. With a certain lens about ourselves, we're here in order to share and to be shared, right? Like, we're to be shared with. We're here to give and receive from other people who are here. And social media is definitely an avenue through which we can do that. So something that I feel is like really overlooked when we decide like, okay, I'm going to like redo my life. Like I'm going to live my life as my own. I'm going to have this special, magical, sacred, like really cool life. I'm going to just like have no more F's to give. Like it's me time. Like everything's coming at me. This is like my year. Like I'm going to do the thing. We don't remember to intentionally shift a lot of our outer experience in order to match that inner alignment. Now, if we don't intentionally shift our outer experience on purpose, guess what's going to happen? The universe is going to go ahead and do it for us. And by that, I mean, like, did you ever notice that, like, you might go through a phase of life where you are doing a lot of self-work and having all these revelations and, like, living your best life, the most like you can feel inside with yourself, and like making progress in therapy and like having all these like watching these cool documentaries and reading these cool books, and then like everything starts to fall into place, and then all of a sudden like your friendship group really dramatically shifts, or like someone ghosts you out of your life or something like that. This is how the universe aligns our external reality to match our internal reality. Like, if we don't do it for ourselves, it gets done for us. And this is an energy thing, because as you evolve and elevate and go into a different place within yourself, so does your external world. It's not really possible for your inner world to shift so significantly and for your outer world to stay the same. It just makes logical sense that as you grow internally, your world around you has to shift and change, because the things that were aligned for you before, they're not going to align for you anymore. And yet we resist this change so very deeply. There's a lot of reasons why we resist this change. One of them is guilt. One of them is a feeling of obligation. One of them is a feeling of like being in our comfort zone. So if, for example, my inner changes have really brought about within me a lot of changes within myself, and I am like ready to like live my best life, and I have like a friend in my life who's really pessimistic, who really doesn't look at things the same way as me, who's not in support of being like a dream achiever and like a go-getter and all that stuff, suddenly like that person's not going to really match me anymore. I might carry around the knowing about this for a while until I am forced to do something, or until the universe handles it for me, right? Because it's not any longer an energetic match. Every time I'm with that person, I feel that like really gross kind of naggy feeling inside that's like, ugh, you know, reference like energy vampires, like whatever. Like it really feels like work or a chore or like something I would rather put off. And this happens when we start to change. The things that have used to been comfortable for us are no longer comfortable for us. But we stay in these spaces and we stay with these people because of those things that I just mentioned. Maybe we have guilt or obligation or comfortability. So in the situation that I just described, I might feel guilt for wanting to remove myself from that friendship. I might be like, they don't really have anyone else. We've been friends like for a minute. Like they need me. They're going through a lot. I would feel really bad abandoning them. They have like a self-work story about their life that says that like everyone always leaves them, so I don't want to contribute to that, etc., etc., etc. The feeling of obligation might be like, I have known this person for so long. They've been there to help me through some of my harder times. They live down the street from me, and we ride share the kids to school, whatever the case may be. Comfortability would be it would be so weird if I stopped inviting them to things. It would be so weird if I wasn't in the group text anymore. It would be so weird if I didn't any longer just naturally stop by their house after, I take my kid to their dad's house or whatever the case may be. These are all compelling reasons to not change something. But what I really want to highlight for you is that once the change has happened energetically, it's almost like a losing battle for you to fight it, because inside you know. And the more we ignore that intuitive hit, the more we ignore that inner knowing, the more it pushes the envelope. And the more the tensions kind of start to grow. Because the thing I am very aware of about all people is that we are all capable of reading the energy of a situation or a person or a circumstance. There is not really anyone who is not aware on some level of some kind of energetic shift that's happening. Now, whether or not we put voice to that energetic shift is a whole other conversation, because most of the time we don't stop and put voice to it. Most of the time we don't stop and articulate it. Most of the time we just kind of ignore it because that's more comfortable. And depending on your attachment style, especially if you are avoidant as an attachment style, you are going to do anything but. You are going to not want to deal with this. But I do have to say that think back over your life and think back over the times where you have kind of known something needed to change and you just made yourself kind of ignore it. I can almost guarantee you that it didn't go well, ultimately speaking. Either you just suffered in an immense amount of silence until you had such a resentment that your side of the relationship changed so dramatically that the circumstance changed anyway, or the other person felt the tension so much that it ended up kind of blowing up in some capacity or another, or weird circumstances intervened and the situation sort of just fell apart. Now, rarely the other person in the equation can rise to the occasion and maybe they change too, but that's often not the case, because if that was the case, we wouldn't be feeling that need for a change to have happen, because that need for a change suggests there's not an energetic alignment. If that person was growing on the same trajectory that you were, the energy would still feel aligned. So the fact that it doesn't feel aligned shows us pretty clearly that it's not matching. We're not on the same trajectory, right? I want to encourage you to trust this inner impulse, because what we are trying to do here is to just get into alignment with ourselves. And there's nothing worse than doing all this self-work, setting yourself up, having the realizations, doing the hard things, having the moments, and then not really calling your world into alignment to match you. And so I'm talking about this on a tangible level with a friendship that needs to shift, or even a relationship that needs to shift, a marriage that needs to shift, a career path that needs to shift. I just want to let you know it's okay for you to trust yourself. It's okay for you to know. Because once we start doing our self-work and having these changes happen within ourselves, the external changes do follow. And so when we lose a friend or when we lose people from our lives, it feels really personal. It feels really painful. And a lot of the times it is really painful. I'm never going to tell you that your pain is wrong. I'm never going to tell you that you shouldn't be feeling something that you're feeling. But what I am going to say is that sometimes things can be right and they can still hurt at the same time. Sometimes we can know we need to end a situation and it can still be really hard. I myself went through a very immense friendship breakup earlier this year, and it was a terrible experience. But I also myself knew for a long time that something had to change. And because of guilt and obligation and comfortability, I didn't make those changes. And instead, those changes came to fruition on their own in a very big and intense kind of way. And it sucked for everybody involved. And I do wonder with myself sometimes, had I just trusted my intuition, and rarely do I not, would the situation would have gone better for everybody involved? Would there have been less overall pain for all of us? And I don't know the answer to that because I didn't do it that way. I allowed my life to get like externally shifted through almost like sheer force, because that inner change had been asking for the external change to happen for so long. But the other component of like our external worlds needing to shift is our social media spaces. Like, how many of us are afraid to post things on our social media because we're keeping people around who are like super hella judgy or rude or intense or like some other type of way? Like, how many of us have like rando people from high school still on our Facebooks or on our Instagrams or on our TikToks or whatever? How many of us have like our weird aunt like watching everything we do and reporting back to the family? We all know these people. They are like lurkers and they are like paying attention, and they either make themselves known or they don't, but they're very much there. And knowing that they're there is almost enough to like kill a whole vibe. In fact, it is probably enough to kill a whole vibe. Like, you could be feeling yourself, you could be feeling empowered, and you could be like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna take the cutest selfie and I'm gonna be like going out for girls' night, like doing some witchy tarot readings, can't wait, gonna have the best time ever. And then like we hesitate to post that because like my nosy aunt might see it and tell my grandmom or tell my mom or tell my sister, and then it's gonna be a whole thing and I'm gonna have to answer questions about it. This is not okay. I am here to tell you that this is not okay. It's one thing when like back in the day we knew we were all going to like Easter at someone's house or something, and so we wore like the acceptable outfit and we like hyped ourselves into being pleasant for the day and like just like shielding our energy field and like filtering out whatever everyone said and like making plans for certain times so we had an excuse to leave. And so like once or twice a year maybe we would like subject ourselves to these situations, and even that is like still feel iffy about how like great I feel about us doing that. But now we like allow, like we like invite in, like we like accept the friend requests of people who are not even our friends. Like, think about that. There's people who want to follow us and we don't even like them. And they don't even like us. So like, if we wanted to have a conversation about boundaries, I really want us to like realize that there is no need or reason or purpose for you to allow people into your world who are absolutely not here for you. We really must create and cultivate a world both inside of ourselves, inside of our homes, and then outside of ourselves and outside of our homes that feels safe and okay. I am aware that it is really, really hard to tell Aunt Becky that she's not allowed on your feed. I get that. But that is one hard moment compared to every single time you're trying to post something, having a hard moment about it because Aunt Becky's eyes are watching what you're doing and judging it. Which kind of challenging situation do you want to be in? One where we click like delete a person, or one where we have to constantly like delete our truth? Because this is real. So many of us are out here being like controlled and manipulated by like the silent judgment that we perceive that others have against us. And to a degree, we can't control it, right? Like, we can't control what our boss thinks, or we can't control who our coworkers are, and we can't control like what the other moms at the bus stop are feeling or whatever. We can't control a lot of these things, what our friends, boyfriends like towards us. But we sure as heck can control who's allowed access to our inner world. And if you're wanting to start to feel more like yourself, you have to have this conversation with yourself. I hate to say it, and I hardly ever say have to anybody, but I'm really going to go ahead and use the have to button right now. If you want to feel safe, if you want to feel safe to be yourself, if you want to feel like you have access to self-expression, you have to ask yourself, who is allowed to have access to my inner world? Because I guarantee you, if there are people in your space that don't make you feel safe, that is impacting your own energy towards yourself. It makes you feel less safe with yourself. It makes you feel less safe with your form of self-expression that you want to have. It makes you embrace your truth significantly less because the watchful, judgmental eyes of others are always in your awareness. How can any of us blossom and unfold into ourselves if we're feeling judged before we even start? And why do we let these judgmental people into our inner worlds? My guides told me a long time ago that the internet was created in part to teach us about interconnectivity of everyone. It shows us so clearly the way in which we are all so intertwined. The fact that I'm speaking to you right now and you are wherever you are in the planet and I am wherever I am in the planet is kind of some type of miracle, right? That's through the magic of like the internet. The internet does not exist. You can't touch it. You can't hold it. You can't grasp it. You can't go and visit it. And yet it is very real, isn't it? And so the guides have told me, like, just like our spirit is real, just like the oneness theory is real, just like the fact that we are also intertwined is real, so does the internet show that to us. And so if my energy belongs to me and it is malleable and impressionable and glorious and magnificent and all the things, and I am working on myself and I am working on loving and embracing myself and lifting myself up and living my best life, why would I ever allow someone in who's going to diminish my light? Now, it's one thing if I accidentally allow people like that in. It's one thing if I don't know and it's like a wolf in sheep's clothing or something. But if I already know or I become aware that someone is like not for me, I really need to have that conversation with myself. I really need to say to myself, is my world working for me? Am I surrounded by people who uplift me and believe in me and who want to see me succeed? Am I surrounded by people who love me and will cheer for me when I have a win and will pick me up when I don't? Because if I'm not, I have to change that. I have to change my outer world to match the inner world that I'm creating. I have to change my outer world so it aligns with the outer world I want to be going into. And so this is a call to action for you to go through and delete anyone off of your social media that doesn't feel like they belong with who you are becoming. Anyone whose intention is going to be to hold you back or drag you down, they don't belong with you. You can restrict their access. You can outright delete them. You don't owe anybody an explanation for this. Do whatever it is that you have to do to maintain the sanctity of your inner world. Our social media spaces are entire universes that we are in charge of, and yet we still treat ourselves badly in them. Try to look at the accounts that you follow. Are they accounts that describe to you where you're going, who you're becoming, who you want to be, what you want to see more of? Or do they keep you feeling small or diminished or criticized or harmed? Have that conversation with yourself. It's important. And this is a really good practice of boundary work, because what you are doing is you are standing up and you are saying, no, not everybody gets access to me just because they want it. Do I want them? Not everybody has to like me. I have to like people who are in my space, though. So often we're striving for the acceptance of people who we don't even like. So often we're striving for the approval from people who we don't even approve of ourselves. These are hard questions, but they're really important. And they're ones that we really need to ask ourselves, because this is the essence of boundary work. This is what's important. And this is how we start to feel like we're living that connected life that I was talking about, where we're always in that flow with ourselves. Because we, at least at minimum, should get to show up to our social media spaces, the invisible realm that holds like our hopes and dreams and our thoughts. And we should at least get to show up to those spaces like our truest self, so that we can feel connected and not criticized and not harmed and not under a microscope of like some kind of pain. I want you to get to walk through your life feeling like you. And like I said, sometimes we have family obligations. Sometimes we have relationships that we must maintain and hold. Sometimes we have that Aunt Becky or whoever that we have to talk to. Or sometimes we still have to have like our problematic uncle in our lives for whatever reason. But we are not beholden to letting them have access to our interpersonal worlds. And to take it a step farther from the social media realm, if there are not people in your life that you don't actually like interacting with, please try to consider limiting your interaction with them. Because I want you to feel connected. I want you to feel like yourself. Another way that we can start to connect and feel like ourselves, and this is another big change, is to start to pay attention to how we like adorn our bodies, how we show up in the world, the energy that we carry with us, the way we signal out. How do you dress yourself? What colors do you choose to wear? Do they signify some spiritual significance to you? Do you ever find yourself like looking at someone else and being like, oh my gosh, I love that outfit. I wish I could pull something like that off. That is your signal to yourself to try to start to incorporate whatever the essence of that vibe is into your world. That is the thing within you that wants to live speaking to you. And it's like, I want to look like super boho chic, or I want to look like super rock star hot. I remember when I was growing up, I think I told this story recently, but like, one of my neighbors, came out as lesbian, and I was like, how come she gets to be gay? Right? Because the gay in me was speaking through that moment. I know that when I was getting married the first time, a girl that I knew bought the wedding dress that I kept trying on but not buying. And I was like, how come she gets to have that wedding dress? It's like, my guides literally screamed at me, you could have it too if you went and bought it. Because something in me wasn't allowing me to be myself. Something in me was judging me so that other people wouldn't. Like, I was so sure that I was going to get a certain kind of judgment that I just went ahead and judged myself. And I withheld my own joy from myself in that way. And I don't want us to do this to ourselves anymore. If there are certain people that you must interact with, or certain like compromises you have to make, that's okay. What are the compromises that you don't have to make for other people? What about you? Ask yourself, what is something that like I wish I could do and feel okay with? Is it like getting a tattoo? Is it wearing multiple rings on your fingers? Is it dyeing your hair a certain color? And I'm picking a lot of like superficial external body things because sometimes that's a really easy way for us to signal to ourselves that we are becoming who we want to be. Is there a certain type of clothing that you want to let yourself wear? A certain type of makeup style that you might want to try? Do you want to get a certain kind of pet? Do you want to paint your walls a specific color? Do you wish you could hang like certain artwork on your walls? Do you wish that your bed could have like a string of lights going across the headboard? Do you wish you had an altar out in plain view? What are the things that you want to do that will make you feel more like yourself in your external reality? Because these things are important. These things take us from living like a very vivid secret life within ourselves to starting to live a really embodied life, like out in the world. One of the reasons this is so important is because this is how we find the people who are meant for us. If we're all hiding and conforming to whatever the shoulds are, and we're all trying to look a certain way and be like very acceptable to whoever's standard, and that's a question for you, BT Dubs, like whose standard of acceptability am I like trying to match? But if we're all doing that, how are we ever going to find the people who belong with us? We have to show up as who we are so other people who match that can see us. And so if one of the things that you say to yourself a lot is like, I'm lonely, I don't feel like anyone really knows me, I don't feel like I have people I really connect to, ask yourself if it's because do you seem like your true self? Are you showing the world who you are so that your people can find you? And we do this by shifting our social media world. We do this by shifting our appearance. We do this by shifting our home spaces. We do this by allowing our external realities to start to reflect our inner world. And so this episode's kind of full of a lot of like self-worky kinds of questions. This is like a coaching episode for you, but it's also a very spiritual, witchy episode because this is how we live connection. This is how we live in that spiritual vibration of feeling like ourselves as much as possible. We start to live it. If I want to have a spiritual life, I must live life spiritually. I must drape myself in the jewelry that feels like magic to me. I must wear my hair in a way that like makes my soul happy. I must go to activities that lighten up my life. I must eliminate people who are here to harm me and call in people who are here to like understand me. I must connect to myself to connect to others. I must begin to take ownership of the fact that I can shape my worlds and I'm allowed. I have permission to do exactly that. And I'm going to take that permission and I'm going to start to take away anything that doesn't feel like me. And I'm going to start to be willing to receive everything that does. So go forth, think these thoughts, work on these energies, and let me know how it goes for you. I hope you have an amazing, witchy, spiritually connected, magical AF day. Find me on my social media platforms. Give my TikTok some love. And if you want some one-on-one time with me, join me in the Witchcraft Academy by going to my website, moonstonewitchery.com, and signing up over there. I hope to see you.